guy who's a veteran guy and can maybe provide a leadership role. What are you looking for from him? Maybe not so much in his play, but working with the other guys.
Well, I think that's exactly it. I think he's one of the guys that can step to the forefront and really help to solidify that defensive unit and the team. He's a guy that can circle the troops. And when you watch him play and you watch the way he makes impacts on the football field, he's a guy that's earning that opportunity to do it. He's very active last year, did a lot of good things for this team. And we're expecting the same thing going forward, but we're also expecting the leadership role from him, and he's been very good about it. You see him work with the young guys on the sideline. You see him, buying in, trying to get a good feel and understanding for how we want to do things. And as long as he continues to grow, he's going to be a guy that can truly help us.
Since you got here, you've talked about wanting to see your guys in the field to kind of get a handle on what you have. I wonder, even though it's one practice, do you see things today that kind of brings you closer to that goal?
Yeah, it does. Every time we get an opportunity to watch our guys on the field compete, I think it helps us. It helps clears up some things. There's a couple positions that we looked at that, we'll probably talk about a little bit later, saying, hey, you know what, we got a couple of guys here that, have shown us something, so let's keep an eye on it. Or we might be a player deficient here, so we got to take a look at that. And we'll have conversations at the end of the week and get a chance to really see where we are.
What can you see when they have the pads on, other than contact, that maybe that you look for and to kind of evaluate that?
Well, how they handle the contact. How a guy might look good earlier because we weren't in pads, and so his movement is a little bit more fluid. He's a little more explosive. Now you put the pads on and it changes. The fluidity of movement isn't there. The bulkiness of movement in the pad shows. You look for that in wide receivers. You look for that in defensive backs. You look for power, what kind of power a guy has when the pads come on when you look at the front. How are these guys blocking? How are these guys getting into the gaps as defensive linemen? So the pad changes the performance of a lot of guys. And some guys, it either gets better than what you were seeing, or it's worse than what you saw.
What did you in the 7-on-7? What are some of the little things that you saw from Alex that maybe you were hoping to see or wanted to see or looking for?
Right, that's a good question, John. Because the thing that you've got to see to tell you he's ready for the next one is his foot movement. How is he going through his progression? Is he going through his progression with really fast feet and making the good movement decisions? Those are the things that you want to see, so that that, hey, he's going through the progressions in a very quick fashion, so that if it's not there, he's got to go over here and then get rid of the ball or do something. So we've got to make sure his decision making is still there and his movement is still there before we can progress to the next phase.
And so in that regard, what did you see from him then?
I saw the good movement that we're looking initially. You watched him go through it. His very first pass, he completed the pass on the swing to his left. Well, what happened was he took his look through the middle of the defense to the side and then went all the way to the flat. So you see that he's still in tune with that. It's an old wily veteran. He went right through his progression.
In terms of the defensive backfield, it was Troy Apke out there for the free safety slot.
Yes.
What exactly have you seen from Troy that haven't out there with them? So what is the impression so far?
Well, the biggest thing about Troy right now is he's got a really good athletic skill set. He's got good range. He's got good quickness. One thing he's got to work on, obviously, is his angles. He's got to improve those things. He's a sharp, smart football player. And really today was part of his rotation. I know yesterday I saw that you had talked about who we had started out with with that first group on the offensive line. Well, today we had a different group, and you're going to see that, just so everybody knows. You're going to see different combinations of guys. Very few positions are set in our mind right now. We've gone through 12 workouts with these guys. We've had an opportunity to watch these guys. And, there's a couple spots that we feel very, very comfortable with. So we're probably not going to rotate guys through that. But other ones, we're still trying to find the right combination. So tomorrow you may see a different group of players on the left side of our offensive line. You might see a different combination of safeties in the secondary. You're definitely going to see a different group and combination of linebackers, that's for sure. So we're going to continue to try and experiment. We've got a little bit of time, so we can go through a few more practices. We're trying to figure out who exactly is our best combination of players on the field at a time.
And, I see you noticing things, okay. But in terms of your safety duo, what makes for a strong pairing? Washington has had so many free safeties since Sean Taylor's passing. What makes for a strong tandem? Obviously, the plan that he set, but what makes for a strong marriage in the backfield?
Well, first of all, is like any relationship. If you can have a type of relationship where things can go unsaid, and yet what that other person's going to do, that'll come in time. That's probably the best thing you'd love to have, but that only comes in time. But the communication aspect of it is very important, making sure everybody knows where each other is supposed to be, as well as the guys around them. I think the thing that they've got to be able to do too is be able to be almost interchangeable, so that, let's say, the strong safety is supposed to be down, but there's a shift in emotion, and the other safety realizes, hey, he's not going to be in position. He can change him, get him out of position, and go down and play that spot. So those are the types of things you're looking for. You're looking for great communications, a great combination of leadership between the two of them, and guys that understand and get it in terms of their working with the rest of the defensive unit.
I was wondering a little bit, when you have a guy like Reuben Foster who's coming back from an injury like that, do you watch him extra carefully on a day like today? It doesn't even have to be him, just guys who are coming back in general from injuries like that. Do you kind of hold your breath more and you watch them more on days like today with the first or second?
You do. To be honest with you, you do. I watched Bryce Love a little bit closer today as well, and again Alex. So those are three guys that are on your mind just because they're coming back from big time leg situations, and it's kind of fun to watch them out there and have some success. It was kind of got on Reuben a little bit. He put himself in great position and he just kind of forgot his technique, and the ball was thrown his direction. And it's one of those things. If he continues with his technique, he's got himself to make a play. So it's fun to watch him, because it's fun to watch him start to succeed and get more and more confident in their legs, and it's there's a satisfaction to that as well.
Is there with quarterbacks? Is there a concern at this point with accuracy, or is that secondary to the other stuff you want to see them do right now?
That's secondary right now, because young quarterbacks, what you're going to find is their brains, their minds, they're going to see things before their body's in position to do it. With guys like Alex, if you watch Alex and how I want to say mechanically fluid he is, here, and as he's turning, everything's moving together. His eyes, his shoulders, his hips, his feet are all moving together. But when you watch young quarterbacks, and I learned this when I was in Carolina with Rob Chudzinski, we were talking about the development of Cam Newton. Watch how certain parts of his body isn't in sync. His eyes might be over here, but his shoulders are still over here, and he's got to whip around to throw the ball. Tendency is to be late, okay? Sometimes he gets ahead where his shoulders are already turned, his eyes are here, and he throws the ball, and he throws it way ahead. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you're trying to find with young quarterbacks is their body keeping up with their eyes? Is their decision making keeping up with being in position to throw the ball properly? That's one of the things. It's all about you'll hear us talk about mechanics. You'll hear us talk about footwork. Those are things that we're looking for. As long as he's making good reads, as long as he's making good decisions, you feel like your guys are progressing because you're watching tape and you're seeing him throwing it where you want him to throw it, but he's to that receiver, but he didn't lay it out where it needed to be thrown. You see what I'm saying? Okay, good. Yeah, then that's what we're looking for from our young quarterbacks.
Other than kind of the up tempo and practicing fast, what else are you trying to kind of put your stamp on this team, or are there bad habits you've seen out of practice so far you're trying to get rid of with these guys?
Well, they all have bad habits. They've been away from football for a long time, and we didn't have OTAs and minicamps, so we figured there's going to be a lot of bad habits that we've got to get corrected. And it's not necessarily residual from last year. It's just guys tend to fall back as to what's easiest to do right now. And we've got to make sure that the guys are understanding that this is how we do things. One of the things that we've done is we've asked the players to make sure they understand that, hey, we want you to do it a specific way. We're teaching a specific technique, okay? And if we do it the way that we're talking about, and again, we have success, hey, glory goes to the players. If we don't have success, it's my responsibility, because, again, we have to put players in the best position to have success, and we may not be doing that. So we may have to reevaluate ourselves as well. But we're trying to get them to understand it. Right now, this is how we do things, and this is how we want it done.
Maybe if I haven't seen football in a while, but it seemed like these guys were kind of getting after each other with the pads out there, and some aggressive play in a good way. What did you think about guys getting after it with the pads on?
It was good. It's exciting. And, that's always the hard part, because, you want to be smart. You want to practice the right way. You want to get something out of it, but at the same time, you also want to take care of your teammates. And so you try to avoid as many of the big-time collisions as you want. And again, sometimes it's just the players getting juiced up. That is exciting. I do get excited about it. I had Jonathan Allen come up to me after a couple of our periods and said, "How much do you miss it? I know you wish you could still do it." And he's right. I do wish I could still do it, but unfortunately I can't. So I'm doing the next best thing, and that's coaching.
Specifically, you mentioned Allen with the line play. I don't know how much you were specific specifically watching them, but what was your take on those guys? They have some interesting situations at left tackle, Chase Young. What did you see out there with that group?
Well, the best thing that I saw was that these guys are starting to understand it and get used to it. They're coming from a different style, than what we're playing now. We've gone from a 3-4 base to a 4-3 base, and it's a little bit different techniques. Some of the guys are still a little stubborn, reluctant. They're using their old techniques, and we're trying to get them to understand that these techniques that we're showing them will work best with this style of defense. And so you see them, when they have success, you can see the light bulb starting to go on. And when you don't see the success, you see the frustration. And some of these guys are wearing their frustrations on their sleeves, which is great. But I also want them to get that, hey, we got to move on, learn from it, and go to the next play. And that's one of the things that I saw with the D-line. As far as the offensive line, you can see the little nuances they're starting to learn. There's some techniques they've got to improve on. One thing that our guys have felt really good about was what Coach Callahan had done and the stamp that he had put on a lot of these young players. You see that good work ethic, and Coach Matskell's just picked up on it, and he's trying to install his style and his way of doing it for our offensive line play, and that's been a big plus. I've been very happy with that. As far as some of the individuals that look good out there, I was very pleased with Montez and Chase. I think we've got a good group of young guys, and it's exciting to watch them. And Ryan Kerrigan is really starting to show a feel for putting his hand in the ground every play. That's been neat. The 4 tackles have been all exciting as far as defensive tackles. That's been a really cool thing. I think the left side of the line battle shaping up very nicely as far as our left guard and left tackle combinations, and we'll continue to monitor that and watch, because we've got some guys that have a chance, I think, to help us.
Dwayne worked all of the ones today. Is that, like, when you have got positions that are maybe on set, do you prefer that, like, the one player just works with the same team all day, or like the same group, or do you like to switch them around?
One of the things that we're going to try to do, and we're going to continue to talk about, is the best way to put us in position in terms of working guys with different groups of players, and we'll continue to do that. I don't know if you noticed that, even though Dwayne was with the first line, he wasn't always with the first group of receivers and running backs and tight ends. If you notice, we are constantly rolling those groups of guys in and out, that we're trying to find the best combination. Probably the only one wide receiver that's been mostly with Dwayne has been Terry. You do see those two guys typically in together at the same time, but for the most part, everybody else is mixed in different groups.
Pete, what was just your takeaways of Dwayne?
I thought Dwayne did some really good things. I think he's made some really good decisions. And again, he's a guy that, again, we look at this offense, and with these quarterbacks, with all these quarterbacks, these are guys that we're going to talk about decision making more than we'll be talking about anything else. And I think that's real important. I think that's really, really important.
Ron, can we just get a couple quick updates? Ryan Anderson was working out to the side, and we didn't see Sadiq Charles out there at all. Do you have updates on those two?
No, I'm going to be very blunt about the injury situation, guys, just so you all understand. I don't have to give you an injury report until it's time. And when I do give you guys do get injury reports, I'm going to be very basic, because I'm not the doctor. All I can really tell you, and I will basically regurgitate what it says. So I just want to be fair with that with the players, okay? Because, again, the less our opponents know about our guys, the better it is for our guys, period, to be safe with them. The only thing I will tell you is that Ryan did work off to the side. We're monitoring the situation. It's a minor thing right now. It's one of those things we just got to see how it goes. With Sadiq had a minor injury as well, and we got to kind of work through with that with him as well, and hopefully they'll both be out there in the next day or two. But we'll see what happens. But just so you guys know, I'm going to be very vague with that stuff. I do want to say I hope everybody saw the announcement we made yesterday about Jason Wright joining us as our president. It's a very exciting time for us. I think that some of the things that Mr. Snyder has done in the last few weeks has been very positive for our franchise going forward. I'm really excited about it. I had an opportunity to know who Jason Wright is as a player. Now, more importantly, I've gotten to know him as a man. Didn't realize after we had made the announcement, I got several text messages from a lot of people, and didn't realize he and I had so many common threads and people that we knew. So that it's been really neat. It's a thing that's, I think, is great, because we're going to be working together as we try to get things going in the right direction as far as the Washington football team is concerned. But just real pleased with the things that have happened, and again, appreciate Mr. Snyder doing those things for us.